there was something special about this frosting. The peanut butter that I used in this particular recipe was so good. This is a recipe that you'll definitely regret if you do not try it out. And tell me, what other better way to start off your year other than to try out this cinnamon and peanut carrot cake? And I'm definitely sure you're going to love it, because just look at all this goodness. I can guarantee you that this recipe is a banger. So without further ado, let's get started. Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Baking with me in my kitchen space. In today's recipe, we are having a very tasty cinnamon and peanut carrot cake, and I'm pretty sure you're going to love this recipe. So just a disclaimer, today I'm not using the ordinary measuring cup, but I'm using those metallic cups over there. I'm pretty sure if you're from Kenya or Africa, you've seen these cups around, and that's what I'm going to be using. One cup measures about 335 ml, of which is almost 1.5 the size of the normal standard measuring cup, and that's going to make only a difference when it comes to the eggs. So I've started by adding a 1/4 cup of margarine and a 1/4 cup of cooking oil, and I'm going to beat this till the mixture is well combined to form one paste. Then once I'm happy with the results, I'm going to go in with 3/4 cups of sugar. So when I was making this particular recipe, I added a cup of sugar. It was quite okay, but if you're not a sweet tooth, you might not like the sugariness. So the right amount to add in this particular recipe, just do it 3/4, but if you're a sweet tooth, 1 cup of sugar is quite okay. Then I'm going to beat that in, and once everything forms a very nice consistency and it becomes lighter in color, I'm going to go in with my eggs. So remember that I mentioned that I'm using a slightly bigger cup than the standard measuring cup. If at all you're going to be using this particular cup, you'll need about 3 eggs. If at all you're going to be using the standard measuring cup, you'll only need about 2 eggs. I'm going to beat each egg one at a time as I incorporate it in with the mixture. Once the mixture is fluffy, I'm going to go in with my salt. So I'm going to add about a pinch of salt, and that's about 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And remember, if at all you're using very fine salt, you'll definitely need less the amount of salt. And then I'm going to add in about 1 teaspoon of vanilla, but I added about 1.25 teaspoons of vanilla, which is totally okay. Then I'm going to beat that in, and then let's get to the part where we get to season our flour. In today's recipe, as I've mentioned and as you've seen from the title, we are making a cinnamon and peanut carrot cake. I'm going to mix in my cinnamon with my flour. The quantity of the cinnamon is about 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. I find that cinnamon can be quite overwhelming at times if used in large quantities, so I decided to add 1/2 teaspoon, but if at all you like it, you can add more, totally okay. Then I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of baking powder, because in today's recipe I'm not using the self-raising flour as I normally do. So I'm going to mix that in, and then I'm going to mix in my carrots. So the main point of mixing my carrots at this point, and not after I'm already done with my butter, is so that they do not sink. So you'll notice that if at all you do not dust your carrots with some flour, they tend to sink at the bottom once you start baking. So to avoid that, I'm just going to mix it with some flour, but I decided why not to go the easy way and mix it with all the flour. After all, it makes my work easier. So I mixed my carrots with my flour, and then I'm going to add in 2 batches as I add my milk. So I'm going to add some flour and some milk, and then I'll whisk it a little bit, making sure not to overmix. Then I'll go in with the rest of the flour and the rest of the milk. So I've used 1/3 cup of buttermilk, and my buttermilk was simply milk that I added some vinegar. But if at all you do not have the vinegar, you can add about a teaspoon of fresh lemon juice, and that's how you simply make some buttermilk at home. So to attain a very moist cake, you need about 1/3 cup of buttermilk. But if at all you need a drier cake, you can decide to leave the milk out of this equation. My batter is ready at this point, and I'm just going to sprinkle some peanuts. So these are baked peanuts, and I'm going to sprinkle them into my mixture, and then I'm going to mix them. I'll put my mixture in my baking tin. I'm using a kawaida sufuria for baking, and I'm going to bake this in my oven. Normally I will bake this size for about 45 to 50 minutes thereabout, but in today's recipe I'm using a very big oven, and I baked it for about 1 hour and 40 minutes. I know that's a lot of time, but my cake got ready after about 1 hour and 35 minutes. So you can start checking your cake after about 40 minutes, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be almost ready, if not yet ready. We are going to pop it in the oven, and in the meantime let's make some frosting. So for the frosting, I made some peanut butter frosting with chunks of peanuts. The peanut butter had some peanuts, so I did not have to add the peanuts, but if at all yours does not have, you can add some peanuts. So I'm going to beat 1 portion of margarine, then I'm going to go in with 1 huge teaspoon, or you can also use 2 or 3 of peanut butter till it becomes fluffy. Then once it's fluffy, I'm going to go in 2 portions of icing sugar, and then I'm going to combine that well. Then I'm going to also add some little bit of vanilla flavor. There was something special about this frosting. The peanut butter that I used in this particular recipe was so good. And then I'm going to mix that for about 3 to 5 minutes till everything is well incorporated and the consistency is very light and also pale in color. I'm going to roughly ice my cake, and I was going for a very rustic look because I did not have all the equipment that I needed to make a very perfect finishing. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this particular episode, and I tell you the flavors in this particular cake. I'm definitely making another cake like this before the month of January comes to an end, and that is simply to show you how good this particular cake was. So I hope you enjoyed this particular recipe, and I also hope you're going to try it out. And if at all you try it out, tag me on my Instagram at ndungu.kitchen, and I'll definitely post it. So don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll definitely see you in my next one. Bye. Yeah.